Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the KingMakerPodcast. This is Alahinu here. Today, I'm going to be doing an interview by myself because, well, my co host is busy and he can't show up today, sadly, but the show must go on. So I hope you guys say hello to our guest, Billy. How are you?
Good, Elaine. How are you?
I'm good. Low key, after seeing the text, the not text messages, the tweets that I got asking questions and a little bit of hostility, I was kind of confused about it. But I'm glad I could finally talk to you guys and have be able to get like firsthand experience about what's going on, your thoughts, your opinions, etc. Besides like the social media outlets.
Yeah, man. Crypto Twitter, is an amazing place to get good information across, crypto, but, it's also can be a bit of a cesspool at times. But, people within the GMX community are passionate about their GMX and the products that they built. And, it is what it is in terms of the feedback that we've gotten. But, from my vantage point, we've really built something that's relatively unique, even though it's a fork of the product, and nothing but respect for the GMX team and the things that they've built. They're really incredible products, and we see Mycelium taking a kind of a unique path now that the fork has begun to take a fork of a fork and go our own direction with it. So hopefully we can get into some of that during the podcast.
No, yeah, I would love to go over that. And I like I was telling you not recording, but I honestly see forking as a compliment. Like all these people hating and like about being a fork. Like fork has such like a negative connotation. Like my background is engineering. If something's not if something works, then like if anything you should prove upon it, make it more efficient, better, and like make it like change it to the way that you need it for your specific product. But like if the technique or the system that you're using works, then why change it, you know? At least that's the way like I think. Like I don't like I at least from my background, I don't understand why like forking has such a bad connotation. Like is it, if anything, it's like a compliment. Like they have the UI is really nice. Their two token system has been complemented and analyzed from a bunch of smart people in crypto. Like it works. But at least that's my take on it.
No, I agree. I think imitation is the highest form of flattery, or whatever that actual quote is. And that's exactly right. I mean, when people have really good products, in most industries, what happens after something is proven to have a level of success is, people will adopt that type of product and then make it their own for their kind of own specific communities. And that's really what we're trying to do. And again, kind of like hats off to the GMX and really kind of where this all started is we actually had just been brainstorming internally about how can we take products that exist in traditional finance that are really successful means of kind of creating transaction volume in and around kind of relatively liquid markets. And obviously perpetual swaps is one of those kind of key products that can drive liquidity into kind of like specific products. But even more so, like the total return swap product that a lot of investment banks use to basically allow people to create bilateral arrangements with trading desks and allow them to either swap collateral or even to lever up to take leverage bets to go long or short, is something that we were really excited about and wanted to find a way to kind of mimic that structure. And looking at the GMX product, we're like, oh wait, these guys have basically already done that, so let's gravitate towards that concept and look to iterate. Initially the thought was that we would effectively do a major redesign of the product, but due to things like scheduling auditors and development times, the path to actually kind of creating the broader vision that we have in the short term was going to have it go from creating something new into the market within weeks, or taking a year plus to get something done. And so we basically took the path of least resistance, and from here now modify the product to a way that kind of fits the vision that we have for this type of margin related perpetual swap product.
No, yeah, and I don't know. Yeah, like you told me that you guys have big, of course, like you didn't leak any alpha, but like you guys have big plans, big things you want to innovate on it, and I think that's amazing. Like I don't know if anyone in this listening before this knows, but like I don't know any other place where I could hedge with curve as an example. Like I saw you guys did that and I was so happy. Like I told them before recording as well. Like I used Quenta back when it was mainly on Ethereum. I haven't used it really in Optimism to be honest yet, and I use GMX. I use GNX. GNX you could do like up to 150x leverage, I think, but I don't like use Polygon as much.
Yeah, that's wild.
Huh?
That's a wild amount of leverage for anyone to take, but very capital efficient, I guess.
It's the project is always actually really interesting. I want to do an interview with them sometime.
It is. No, it is. It is. And for things like Forex, it makes a ton of sense. But no, and one of the thoughts, like in terms of, how we wanted to iterate on it is to expand the product offering, in the types of markets that were available. Along those lines, like really wanted to gravitate towards a lot of the VE tokens and give, people that are kind of locking the governance tokens for, Balancer, Curve, Frac shares, give them a venue to basically lock in yields as a result of, them locking up their tokens and earning those yields.
Oh wow, you're right. Sorry, I'm on your website right now, and I see you also have Frax as well. I was actually going to ask you to add that. That's actually amazing.
Yeah,
That itself is innovative.
no, thanks, man. I think like it's a minor kind of change. It's not like a momentous shift, but like I think it's important to give people an interesting venue to be able to hedge their risk and to give like other unique ways for those DAOs treasury. Like for example, Balancer, like they have a tremendous amount of BAL, and we put a proposal together with the Balancer community, which got overwhelming support for them to deposit BAL into the MLP pool. And now Balancer is earning, right now, I think the yield's somewhere around 50 some odd percent in MLP. They're earning really solid yields on what would have been an unproductive asset sitting in their treasury. And looking to partner with other DAOs that are holders of, some of the governance tokens that we have, or some of their stable coins if it works for them, to be able to have productive uses of these somewhat dormant assets.
No, yeah, like I think that's just amazing. I think the majority of the hate just comes from like the GMX like fans. It's just because like people not from like hardcore in the GMX community like said like one thing or two, but like in general is like pretty neutral. But like that's from my experience is just their community is the one that's being, in my opinion, at least a little bit toxic right now. But I guess that's okay as long as you don't take it to heart.
I mean, yeah, exactly. And it would be weird if they weren't kind of more vocal. They have a very strong and dedicated community, and I would expect them to have some level of animosity to what we're trying to do, or what the optics of what has happened. But like from that vantage point, like I don't believe we're doing anything that's like vampiric. The way that we're trying to go about this is create like something that's somewhat unique. I mean, obviously, like it's a very much a fork, and I think even from the UI perspective, copying a lot of elements from the UI as well can cause some people to get a little bit hung up on that. But like, what we're trying to do is basically bring new liquidity providers into the Arbitrum ecosystem, access new products, and give people ability to create kind of new surface area for arbitrage opportunities. And so far, like we're doing that in a relatively successful way. I mean, GMX is like, they have a tremendous amount of assets already within their pool. I think it's like something like 250 million compared to our 17 million. So, I mean, even from that vantage point, we have a long ways to go to even see a similar level of success. But the way that we're going to look to attack that is basically bring new liquidity providers into the space. Tokamak announced yesterday that they're doing their first test trade in depositing some of the Curve rewards that they've collected over the past week into MLP, and hopefully that relationship expands. I'm extremely excited about the prospects of working with that group and using their kind of like liquidity as a service to basically bring assets from mainnet onto Arbitrum. And hopefully we can do that in a really productive way for all those communities. And before we jumped on the call, I had a few conversations with other extremely large DAOs that they're cross chain, but majority of their assets are on mainnet, and bring them into the Arbitrum ecosystem to create something of a positive sum relationship where people can trade against the MLP pool and trade against the GLP pool, and create arbitrage opportunities that people can take advantage of to create really positive yields for both pools. Granted, it's competitive, but I don't think the types of competition that we're seeking at the moment is anything that's meant to be negative sum in really any way.
No, yeah, and like the thing is, people forget like competition. Spurs. I don't know. English is not my strong suit, but it forces innovation because if for example GPU was the only person on the market, they could become complacent, or like they may lose that hunger, or easier to lose that hunger, if that makes sense. So like I at least that's how I see it. Is like, if anything, you guys being here, like it kind of like spurs each other to innovate and improve your products, because like in like my opinion, I think everyone hates losing. Everyone hates feeling like they failed or something. At least that's how I see it. So like you both are gonna innovate, and you guys are gonna do changes and do wonderful things for the ecosystem because of competition.
Yeah, and I think both teams have taken innovative approaches. Even with our first product, Perpetual Pools, creating a non-liquidatable, non-margined way of getting and accessing leverage was something that was pretty unique. And I know it's something that even the GMX team saw and is now, at least to a certain extent, looking to replicate, or at least build on prior ideas that they've had, looking to replicate with their synthetics product. And so, I like to think that they saw some of the things that we did there and are looking to iterate on it as well. So to your point, like, competition can be a good thing. Allows people to get more creative. I don't know about you, but like for me personally, anytime like my back's against the wall, I tend to have much better ideas than when, I'm sitting fat and happy. So
100%.
So it requires people to get more creative, and it's better ultimately for the DeFi users over time.
Also, I just realized, like, we're already 14 minutes in, that I don't know if I gave your protocol proper introduction. I just introduced your name and then went into this. Did I ever give you a proper introduction?
No, I'm happy to jump into kind of like our a brief origin story and kind of how we got to now. No, sure. So Mycelium actually, was started by a group of classmates at the University of Queensland in Australia, and they got together to basically, initially they got together to create a micro insurance product for farmers in Australia, and in kind of helping to try to solve some of those issues, realized that in particular, data was really kind of like the biggest problem in creating a lot of these like innovative financial products. And they came across the Chainlink ecosystem and basically became massively ingrained into that Chainlink ecosystem. So Mycelium actually was one of the first Chainlink node operators, and now it's one of the largest node operators. And from that like exposure into providing data feeds across DeFi from like Aave and synthetics, really kind of gravitated towards derivatives in particular as being an immense opportunity for the Oracle problem, and creating kind of interesting, novel, and unique products using oracles. And so that's really where Tracer was founded. So Mycelium actually kind of developed the concept, the Tracer DAO, and then incubated that and became basically the core service provider, providing like development services, business development services, all the stuff that a DAO might need to kind of function and operate in terms of like building for the community. And so effectively, we created the perpetual pool product in September of last year after pivoting away from a perpetual swap product, which is not exactly the same as we have today, but kind of dancing around the idea of the product that we have now in MLP. But we during the process of delivering that perpetual swap product, kind of came across this concept of perpetual pools, which we thought was a really innovative way to create a tokenized leverage position that was leverage positions that were composable and usable across DeFi, and so basically pivoted towards the perpetual pools product. Within the perpetual pools product, we had pretty good traction with that, reaching TVLs of somewhere around 50 some odd million. Volumes across the platform, are roughly $1 billion that we've traded on the perpetual pool concept, and really sought to basically just build out a suite of financial products through the Tracer factory. And so allowing people to basically deploy products through the factory to create products that were meaningful to them and their communities. Kind of during the past several months, we also had, let me just backtrack. So Mycelium also had sister projects. One was the Chainlink node operator, Mycelium Node, and the other was this data analytics business called Reputation DAO, which was basically funded by Chainlink and a few other larger VCs. Effectively, what we did is we decided to basically commingle all these disparate entities into the Tracer ecosystem and rebrand as Mycelium. And so now the Tracer ecosystem benefits from Mycelium Node basically running all the keeper infrastructure, the liquidation bots, and all that through the expertise that they have in providing kind of high quality infrastructure across DeFi already, and then bringing in a lot of the data tooling and data analytics tooling into basically what we're looking to build is a mobile application focused on Web3, looking to launch that sometime later in the year, whereby people can get high quality information from their mobile app directly into DeFi, not just Mycelium products, but DeFi more generally. And part of those ambitions within that particular focus is actually looking to onboard a lot of the people that aren't Web3 native, that aren't really willing to go through the process of deeply understanding wallets and bridging and create kind of an experience that is able to onboard a lot of these kind of more TradFi type users into the awesome products and yield opportunities and experiences that DeFi brings, and do it in a very transparent way for users. And so all of these kind of disparate elements are now being incorporated into the Mycelium ecosystem. And another kind of cool area, kind of building on that node level infrastructure and validator level infrastructure, is actually the introduction of staking products. So we plan on introducing staking products into the ecosystem in the form of ETH staking, but then ultimately as link staking kind of comes online, using our expertise in that arena to provide kind of cool innovative staking experiences just around those types of products, and embed that just across the products that Mycelium is offering more generally.
That's insane. That's actually a lot to unpack. So question, let me get this right, because so you're saying you're gonna provide ETH, like one day you want to provide ETH staking services as well as like onboard like a bunch of non-crypto natives. Like how do you guys plan on doing that?
Yeah, so the ultimate plan is in process, but effectively creating a regulated layer on top of DeFi. And so giving kind of people that are more comfortable with kind of the more, centralized exchange broker level of experience that they get in trading stocks and things like that, giving them a venue to onboard into that in a regulatorily compliant type way, and then basically plugging them into the smart contracts that we all know, love, and use on a day-to-day basis in DeFi.
That's actually super exciting. Okay. No, yeah, because it seems like nowadays the trend is like for DAOs to make legal entities. Because regulatory, obviously, I only recently like joined a DAO. I'm still like new to this, even though I run a podcast. But like I've heard from like builders that regulatory can be a little bit intimidating, or they're just really unclear. So like at least it feels to me you're going that route, like providing like a central entity for all these people, which I think is actually really good, just because this is like a niche so far. Like, of course, the majority of the world still is not into DeFi, so you lowering the barrier of entry or like the research needed to go into this, yeah, I think it's like a really good noble thing.
I think so too. I mean, I have friends that are deep in the TradFi game. Obviously, like the older generations are controlling many more of just the overall assets, and a lot of them probably just don't have the time, the interest level, or just like the acumen to basically assess what's happening in and across DeFi. But like the opportunities for people are tremendous. To versus parking something into a certificate of deposit, or parking things into savings accounts, generating high levels of yields through lending platforms, or staking derivatives, or even things like MLP are really solid. And these types of products have been battle tested. They have really solid experiences for those that are willing to kind of go through the efforts of understanding it. And honestly, I don't, as much as I love kind of the DeFi infrastructure and kind of the permissionlessness of it, it seems like over the next few years, it's going to be more and more difficult given regulatory environments. And so trying to build things in a regulatory compliant way is, I think, probably the only realistic way of getting broad adoption.
Yeah, no, but okay. So one thing I wanted to ask is that since you wanted to provide an easy way for people to onboard into DeFi, I'm pretty sure you've seen this past few months that companies like Celsius, Nexo, I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about, got absolutely wrecked, or they had issues try to provide lending services like C DeFi. That is what people call them, right? If you're trying to onboard it and make it easy for them, and you just want to have kind of DeFi more in the back end and make it simple for people to access, that's kind of at least anyone like first hearing this potential future for I was about to call you Tracer, Mycelium, is gonna be kind of scared and wary, because even now I don't even think the customers have been able to access their funds. So how would you approach any potential future customers about this, or future DeFi natives that try to use this platform for themselves?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So like even with like the Celsius and Nexos and all these other kind of CeFi groups that were, basically, try to provide lending services, they were doing it in a very opaque way. But most interestingly is, so they were, to backtrack on that, they were basically providing loans to folks like Three Arrows Capital, and doing basically direct like bilateral loan agreements with these funds, or whoever that they were lending to. Obviously, when those groups blew up, they didn't know kind of who was ultimately kind of holding the bag and what they were up to. But the interesting thing is when those same lending platforms were basically providing loans and borrowing from folks like Aave, all those protocols were basically paid back in full. So, I think a big point of what we're looking to do is plug into those DeFi products and the infrastructure layer that DeFi, provides, and providing access to those for the retail user. And so, obviously that's the plan now, is to plug into the transparent levels of DeFi and giving the user the ability to access the products that actually didn't cause these firms to blow up. And that level of transparency, I think, is the most critical part of making something like this as successful as possible.
Okay, no, yeah, like I appreciate you going over that, because like I remember during those times when the news first came out, and all the Twitter posts and crypto Twitter showing like them and Make Your DAO Volts, and like how like, or like them about to be like liquidated and or like or how levered up they are, etc. I generally was bad practice just because I think it's largely has to do with, like you said earlier, regulation being so unclear in this ecosystem, and like people are not sure what they could get away with.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate your confidence in us. And the other, we're not an anonymous team. We're all kind of fully doxed. Operating at least in within our Australian entity is like a front-facing entity that is registered and working with regulators to kind of create like a fully compliant way for accessing these awesome products. So yeah, I think we want to do what's right for people and do it in a way that's kind of mutually beneficial, not just to our users, but to other awesome protocols as well.
But like one thing I so like one thing leading into this, is that the direction that you wanted to go to for the protocol? Is that the vision that you have to go in this direction, or is because it sounds like you're gonna go more the legal like onboarding route, or do you guys have further vision when it comes to like DeFi, the DApp platform, etc.?
Yeah, I think some of it, will be us also creating other kind of products as well. So creating products that are on chain. Some of the things we're looking at is, how can we access, lending products, and some of the lending products that are out there are ones that like, we would plug into, kind of mentioning kind of the Aves and the compounds. And then there's other kind of products that, we might just create ourselves because we think that there's a particular type of use case that might be beneficial. I don't want to kind of give up kind of too much alpha on what we're kind of thinking about and some of those things, but it definitely part of the approach is building basically the on-ramp layer, and then also building out the infrastructure layer that the on-ramp plugs into. And so some of it will be us building out kind of new on-chain products, and some of it will be kind of leveraging products that are already being built and then providing new users through the on-ramp to these protocols.
That's actually super exciting. Okay, I can't wait. I can't wait. That's a good thing about having this job or having this hobby, that I could get excited for the future of DeFi. It's that, like crypto's become like a larger portion of my life. Now that actually, before I completely forget, and we're already talking about dApps, I did ask on Twitter, and we talked about this a little bit off the record, about some questions that I got through DMs or through tweets of like to ask during the interview. So I'm gonna ask some fan questions, and then I already told you which ones they are, but I'm letting the audience know. And in the future, if you guys want to have any questions like asked on an interview, if once an interview is kind of like somewhat guaranteed, and I don't get rug, I will ask on Twitter, or you could DM me on Twitter or on Discord, and I will choose like the best ones, because I don't have infinite amount of time with my interviewers or interviewees, I guess. And then ask as many as I can possible. But now that that's out of the way, I already asked you this before, but I would like to have your response like on the record. So like, so all these people that saw you guys for GMX, I guess I should have asked this in the beginning. So what is your relation to GMX? If you have any, and like how was it during the process with like as a different protocol, like, and their different protocols do different teams, how was your relation with them, and how was that for you guys?
Yeah, so to be kind of frank, like we didn't consult with the GMX team prior to launching and announcing the fork. We've had kind of conversations with their team in the past, and I know some members of our team have been kind of around them pretty recently, IRL. And again, kind of nothing but respect for them and what they've done. And in all the conversations that I've had with GMX over the past several months, I mean, they've been nothing but like gracious, awesome people. The kind of the thought process for us was that, we were going to be taking divergent paths with this product kind of anyway over time. And so, just went about basically, using their product as a launching pad for that, and then rebuilding all the infrastructure required to support the product, like rebuilding all the keepers and all this stuff was kind of a really large effort, and not something that you can actually just like simply go on chain and copy paste. You have to like reverse engineer how this all works, and then make sure that it's, functioning properly. And so even though, people are calling it just a direct fork, there's a lot that has to happen behind the scenes to make that even just the the underlying code actually work. And so, we didn't take the approach of consulting with their team directly in the process of doing that. I know others have, but we opted not to. And some of that just goes down to we saw that they're also looking to compete with us on the perpetual pool product through their synthetics product. And again, kind of more power to them.
No, yeah, and we went over this a little bit at the beginning, how competition spurs creativity. But you actually led into like the first part that I think I left out by accident. How do you guys respond to every one of you guys now calling you GMX fork? Because before Tracer Down was just everyone started kind of your standalone thing and everything, and then just because of this like one decision you guys made, everyone's now calling you GMX fork. It's as if it's like that's the only thing you're known for. So like how do you respond to that?
Yeah, I guess it's up to every individual to kind of, how do I feel? Yeah, it's it's kind of noise. From my vantage point, we launched the new product, and now it's up to us to kind of make it as successful as possible and create our own little wrinkles on it to kind of listen a community that isn't supportive of it. It's like, okay, awesome, keep supporting the product that GMX are providing, and hopefully over time you can see that what we're providing is unique, or it gives you some opportunity to earn better or to do things that you want to do within your financial life. And if you use our product one day, great. But again, I don't think our goal was ever to, convert those people. Our goal was to kind of bring new people into this type of product and make it as successful as possible, not by being vampiric or negative sum, but by basically expanding the opportunities to bring others that may not have known that this is something available to them, and do it in a, hopefully what ultimately is a positive sum way. Like, we see this opportunity is not being capped at like the 275 million in TVL that it is today, but really being able to expand significantly above that. And hopefully we're really instrumental in bringing kind of new TVL and new assets and new traders into this ecosystem, into Arbitrum. And ultimately, it's likely that GMX will receive some benefit, and the GMX community will receive some benefit as a result of our efforts too.
No, yeah, and you kind of went over it a little bit, but you also did say you guys are also trying to aim for like providing like a little bit of a different service than what they're doing now. Like, they're focusing really heavily on the core blue chip assets like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and like different stable coins, and that's great. But you guys are also focusing on the different aspects. Like, for example, like until now there's no real way for hedging for a curve or balancer, or let's say the next like VE tokens I can think of are like, at least on Arbitrum, or maybe like Dopex and Jones that are going VE, or like maybe like Alchemix as an example. You're giving like a way to hedge with all these VE tokens on a different chain, and as well as giving utility for those tokens so you don't have to lock them up. So I main point I'm trying to get with this is like, even though it's a fork, like you guys are also bringing different utility and a different aspect to the ecosystem, and actually bringing utility to these tokens besides being locked up or just dumped on L2 markets.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope, and will every new product that we potentially introduce into the MLP pool be a VE token? Probably not, but we will hopefully be thoughtful in providing utility to DAOs and to other ecosystems within their governance tokens or their stable coins, or if obviously like Bitcoin and Ethereum are also major components of the product as well, and just bring new venues for people to get some benefit. And I think it's kind of also maybe important to kind of stress like, how we are different than the GMX product, because even though from like followed crypto Twitter, you'd think we didn't do anything kind of new, novel, or unique. I know it's a little bit late in the conversation to kind of jump into that, but like one of the things we talked about the new products, we're also providing like different levels of incentives. So with GLP, LPs can earn 70% of the fees, which is basically the same as what GMX provides. But we provided additional incentives for traders. So traders are a really important component of the overall ecosystem, and so we're actually providing 10% of fees back to active traders for their participation on the platform. And so people who are trading on the platform are able to earn, wrapped ETH as a result of their activity. Another kind of component that we've introduced is we've incorporated a spread. So we charge a small transaction fee as well as a spread. And the transaction fee goes to basically providing wrapped ETH to holders, and the spread actually gets auto compounded back into MLP. And actually, as a result of that compounding, if you compare MLP price with fees compared to GLP, we've actually, since we've launched on August 15th, we've actually kind of outperformed the GLP product by 300 basis points, which is pretty meaningful in a very short period of time. And then other things that we're going to be introducing in the next few days is actually MEV capture and redistributing that to MLP in the form of effective yield, which is something that we think is a really interesting value provider to users of our product. And then within our Oracle backgrounds, we've actually optimized a lot of the Oracle infrastructure, and so we believe that our Oracle infrastructure that we provide relative to others is actually superior, and we think that will provide lots of interesting opportunities for traders and for the pool itself to be able to capture kind of upside. And as we kind of go forward, there's other plans that we hope to kind of introduce to kind of further differentiate ourselves from that product.
No, I think you guys are doing like an excellent job already, because as well as the unliquidatable like products that you have for 3x Bitcoin or 3x Ethereum and oil, you guys alongside that are providing swaps. And if you guys are going to add more of the, I just say VE tokens because I guess I am like a little bit biased. Like I the majority of my holdings are like curved, convex, and frax. But even then, like you providing going into these other markets that other people haven't is like that alone is enough useful for the ecosystem. One thing I was thinking though, so we've been talking about this product for so long. We even went to the legal aspect, regulatory, and all this stuff. But one thing we haven't gone to that everyone crypto Twitter loves is tokens. So I would love for you to go and explain a little bit the MYC token, the plans you have for it. If you could say, I haven't did my research on the token of the protocol yet, but like how it is, if the tokenomics release, or if you gotta do revenue share, etc.
Yeah, so I think the coolest thing that we're doing in like the very short term, I don't want to give I don't know if we've announced like a specific day of when we're going to be launching it, but is a lending program within the MYC token. And so, previously with the Tracer token, it was effectively a governance token for the protocol and had governance rights and really didn't have too much other kind of utility baked into the platform. We have basically goals within the MYC token to have it kind of be used for transaction fees, for payment of transaction fees over time within the Mycelium ecosystem, accessing kind of new products as they come online. But the coolest thing that we're doing, and we think it's actually extremely innovative, I haven't heard of any other protocol or group kind of attempt something like this, but is creating this Mycelium lending product. And so the way this Mycelium lending product will work is that MYC holders will be able to lend their MYC token to the treasury. The treasury can then use that MYC token in productive ways. One of those, for example, might be like depositing the MYC within the Tokamak MYC reactor that we have, and then that MYC being deposited across liquidity pools across DeFi to basically provide further utility via liquidity that Tokamak can provide. And then as a result, for those efforts or for that consideration of lending, providing the lenders a form of variable interest, which will effectively track the fees that are generated by the Mycelium protocol, and then distribute those fees in the form of interest to the lenders. And so I think that's something that's really cool, really unique, and will basically help benefit MYC holders through participation in that lending program.
Okay, so that's interesting. So let me get that right. So you want to provide a way that protocols or like people lend the MYC from the treasury, and you guys earn you guys like earn from. You guys put in tokamak or other locations in DeFi and earn from that, correct?
Yeah, to an extent. I think, maybe, so like let's just say like you hold like 100 MYC tokens. You could then lend those 100 MYC tokens to the DAO treasury. Basically have like a week, just over a week epoch where the treasury would then use those tokens in a productive way. For example, depositing that in the tokamak reactor. And then for your consideration of lending that and providing that utility to the Mycelium network, the network would then distribute basically variable interest payments to you for that
Okay, that's
consideration.
actually really interesting. Okay, so you guys are okay. So that's one thing I do like, and that was my one gripe with the protocol. Like previously, like if I'm being transparent with you, is that with the like tracer, is that I was saying like that I could provide liquidity to the 3x not balancer Ethereum pools, unliquidatable pools, like on the previous tracer page. And I'm like, okay, I earned that say 25% of tracer emissions, but I'm like, I really wished that there was a use case or something I could do with it. So it's cool that I do appreciate now that you give an option where like there's some way like I can retain the emissions that I get from providing liquidity, and I could like earn on those rewards, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah, yeah, and I think the cooler thing is it won't just be you'll have the option of whether you want to take that yield in the form of MYC or in wrapped ETH. So, you will be able to get, effectively the option of getting real yield in a non-inflationary asset. Or if you'd prefer to kind of, effectively, you know, auto compound of sorts into the NYC ecosystem, you'll have that option
that's
as well.
actually a good option that you provide both ways, MYC and like quote unquote real yield. I don't know too many places that provide give people like the option to do one or the other. It's usually like the protocol builds in, oh, you earn ETH or you earn this. It's cool that you give the options like for the user to decide what they want to earn in. These maybe I'm wrong, and if anyone after is listening to this, they could quote me on it. But this is like one of the first few like examples I seen on chain where they give the option of what to earn. Like they could decide what they want to get.
Yeah, we think this is really unique, and I think I think people are going to fork this concept as well. I think it's a really interesting way to go about providing interesting utility and bringing utility into the protocol through kind of providing liquidity into DeFi for these governance tokens, but then also giving those token holders a level of utility through providing interest payments to them.
But nah, but yeah, no, I'm really glad you went over that because, like, one thing is that like everyone in DeFi likes tokens, right? And almost every protocol nowadays is, if you have a protocol, you're almost pretty sure you're gonna have a token. Like, let's be honest. So I'm glad that you spoke a little bit about that. So one thing I wanted to ask, since we're getting to the later stages of this interview, is not so much as like you speak about the protocol, but like what are you excited for when it comes to Mycelium, what you guys are working on? I don't know how much alpha you can leak or if you want to leak any, but I'm just curious on your take on everything that's going on and how you feel about it.
Yeah, so I come from like a TradFi background. Done work, ran trading desks, worked at investment banks, worked at exchanges. And the thing I'm really most excited about in general is just providing means to put more empowerment into individuals around kind of their financial freedoms, and getting financial freedoms through accessing kind of these awesome products that decentralized finance provides. So the thing I'm excited about is giving broader access to users, and making it as kind of seamless an experience to get access to these things. And then from a specific product vantage point, I'm excited to see kind of how we evolve the MLP product or the swap product that we've developed, and the introduction of the mobile app experience, but then the staking kind of products and incorporating more staking products within Mycelium's swap offering and pool offering, because I just see kind of particularly staking derivatives as being just a massive unlock, and maybe even the form of ETH that people actually use to transact due to like the yield generating opportunities that staking provides and having like interest bearing collateral. So just the composability aspect of DeFi, and then getting kind of more transparency around financial services. I mean, the thing that I've basically been following Bitcoin since like, I don't know, 2010 or 11. Basically when CNBC, when I was sitting on my trading desk and CNBC said that there was this new decentralized currency that's out there, and the first message was basically like that article referencing the collapse of a UK bank, and I was just like, that's awesome. Having watched the world burn from 2008 to 2009, and seeing that the opacity of the traditional financial space. And so really what I'm most excited about is bringing kind of helping to bring access to what I think is just a better way of conducting financial transactions, and what I hope is the way that we conduct really all financial transactions through on-chain public infrastructure that the Ethereum ecosystem provides.
No, I'm really happy to hear that. And I honestly, I probably said like a lot, but like I repeat myself frequently, but I do think that makes a good point. Is like all this is what you're offering, and you're providing solutions, and you yourself are giving the infrastructure for future crypto natives, for future crypto users. So I think like that's the thing that I really enjoy about this, like not only this interview, but like interviewing all these different builders, is that you guys are setting the future for the crypto industry, which I think is like really nice. If I don't know if there's anything else you do want to bring up on the record on the book, if there's anything else you want to before I start asking our usual like ending questions, go ahead if you like.
No, I think we covered a lot. We the MLP product, we're really excited about how that's going to evolve, and pretty pleased with the traction of the product to date. We're really excited about getting the Mycelium lending program together. I think it's going to be something unique and driving a lot of value to our users. And then, over time, as we introduce, the mobile product and staking, we should bring a lot of things that people can get excited about, and hopefully are onboarding a ton of users to, not only to the Arbitrum ecosystem, but just to DeFi in general.
Oh, I never went over the mobile product. Do you want to go over that a little bit, just so like, actually, before I end this, I go over the mobile product a little bit if you can, or if you can, that's perfectly fine.
No, sure. So effectively, it's that onboarding tool to onboard the users in a kind of mobile native type approach, and so that'll give folks the ability to access other DeFi products, including Mycelium's products that we're building on chain, and giving them a venue to access those. So we covered it kind of generally. I don't know if I maybe digged into that. It's the initial kind of alpha is that's going to be basically a mobile first kind of experience for folks initially.
Yeah. So like from what I'm understanding, I'm guessing gonna be like kind of like the 1inch style, where like I'm pretty sure you see in the 1inch mobile app that they have. Is it gonna be more in that direction, or am I prying too much into this?
Yeah, prying a bit too much. But hopefully we'll have something to release in definitely before the end of the year. Hopefully much sooner than that, and we can give people the alpha drop as that gets closer.
You can't blame me for trying. You can't. I try to make content. You can't blame me for trying.
No, not at all, man.
But before I head out, this is a personal request as someone of the ecosystem, and I do use your products. So one thing I personally like, if you or someone from your community can make a CVX pool, unliquidatable CVX pool. You guys have it for oil. I'm just putting it out there. You would get a lot of traction if you guys make that, and I can like hedge CVX and not get liquidated, or like just provide the option.
Yeah, let's. I actually have to check. Is there? There's probably a chain link oracle for that. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. There's a Chainlink Oracle and Arbitrum for CVX already.
Well, the cool thing is like with perpetual pools, you can deploy your own pool, um, and then we can get with our team to basically list that on the UI. So if that's something that that the Twitter ecosystem says that they want, it can be listed. So let us know. Let us know, Crypto Twitter, if it's something you want, and we can get it deployed up on the perpetual pool site.
Now I'm excited. I'm gonna try to get all my following to
Awesome.
just go spam your comments in your inbox to try to get that done.
Sweet.
But
I love it.
but yeah, so, thank you so much for giving me some of your time and for being willing to participate today with me. One thing we always do ask before we end the interview is that this is gonna more of a hypothetical question. So imagine it's 2025. A lot has happened. Everything went to plan. You were a complete success. What does success look like to you and to your team?
Yeah, I think we've onboarded a tremendous number of users into DeFi through the on-ramp product. We've expanded into a number of interesting on-chain products, building on the swap and perpetual pool product. We're seeing significant traction in our staking ecosystem and the staking products that we're providing, and really just building a unique experience that allows DeFi native folks and non-DeFi native folks to really get the benefits of the decentralized infrastructure that the Ethereum ecosystem provides.
I'm excited. I'm excited for the future. I can't wait to see what you guys develop. The one good thing about being early is that I get to see all this unfold in history. How does the saying go? History in the making. For all the new listeners that don't follow you or haven't heard or want to learn more, please point them to the direction, to the socials, etc. that you'd like them to see, and show whatever you would like to show before we do our final goodbyes.
Yeah, no, thanks. I would recommend for folks looking to get more access to what Mycelium's up to is to follow us on Twitter. I think it's Mycelium_XYZ. I probably should know that off heart, but I don't. And then, feel free to join the Discord. We have a pretty active community within Discord, posting announcements, answering questions. And then, feel free to come join or jump onto mycelium.xyz and, trade the perpetual swap products, the perpetual pool products. If you have the MYC token, deposit that into the lending platform to earn interest. And I'm not the most I wouldn't call myself the best Twitter follow in the world, but if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's bwelch13. And yeah, kind of get my retweets and see what I like across the DeFi ecosystem. But yeah, I appreciate you having me on, and I look forward to kind of keeping your community updated as we evolve what's happening across Mycelium.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. I'm excited, and I'm actually gonna go follow you myself because I was wondering what was your Twitter as well. But so don't mind me as I also show.
Yeah, Squelch.eth is the name, but I use my undoxed bwelch 13 is my handle.